Welcome to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast with your host, legendary powerlifter and strength athlete, Chad Ikes. For most, the journey of strength starts in the gym, but should inevitably expand through all aspects of life. Join us as we discuss all things strength. Now, here's your host, Chad Ikes.
Hey everybody, I'm back from a little bit of a hiatus from the podcast anyway. As I hope everyone knows, or they'll be finding out now, I've recently sold my house, moved. I'm living in a travel trailer, hence my little setup right here. I bought some land and I'm building a barn dominium to live in, to expand the gym, and hopefully set up a better podcast area and just keep trying to grow all of this stuff. Recently, we're just to the stage where I moved from Reno to Pahrump, and it was getting things set up and then working on permits and stuff for building for the land. So I don't even know, I think a month maybe that I haven't been able to do any podcasts. But I'm kind of set up now. I think this will work. Hopefully be able to get some guests on soon. But until then, I have ideas that I would like to talk about that might help, some of which I've talked to some of my clients, my online clients, and they said they would like to hear me talk about that. And of course, if you guys want to get on my Instagram and DM me or comment on anything, I would surely do my best to do a podcast on any questions you guys have. The camera keeps shaking on the video of this one because, well, I'm in a trailer and not everything's built, to the stablest of standards. But it's not bad. It's everything's working out okay, and I feel gratitude for how it's going. We've definitely had little setups here and there, or setbacks here and there, but that's okay. We're making it through everything. Today, I wanted to talk about bombing out of meets and about the window for error as you become a better lifter. Because I think those things, they kind of go hand in hand a little bit. I recently, 2 of my online clients bombed out. One of them, when he went to do his opener lift, the hooks of the monolift grabbed the bar and it pulled him forward. And he just tried to kind of go instead of, saying, hey, I need to resetting, and really he probably should have got another attempt. But that's okay. That's the way things go. And then he kind of couldn't get back on track. So it wasn't the worst thing. Then I had another client who went in and just didn't get depth on any of his squats. There were some questions on judging like there always is. And unfortunately I wasn't there. So all I get to see is videos. But to me, bombing out is just part of the process. I've bombed out of different meets for various different reasons. I know a lot of big-time lifters that had their spells of bombing out of meets. And, I know some lifters that had long periods of time where, like, every time they went to a meet, something seemed to happen, and they just kept bombing out from injuries or whatever it was. So it's not the biggest thing, but I learned early on that I need to change how I look at bombing out, because when I first started lifting, bombing out just irritated. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. And I'm the kind of dumbass that I've actually started my next training cycle in the warm-up room after a meet. I either bombed out or it didn't go like I wanted. I would start my next training session right there before they clean stuff up. Not smart at all. And I've bombed out for various reasons. I bombed out because I picked openers way too high. I bombed out because I trained too heavy coming too close into the meet. I've made mistakes on I was pretty good on depth most of the time, but there was one meet, I think I did 3 900-pound squats and none of them passed. And I was like, come on, man. Those all felt fine. Everyone was even a little deeper. And the crowd, everybody thought they were fine, but the judges didn't. So sometimes that's just the way it goes. On the flip side of that, I've also had squats that I went, oh, they gave that to me? Okay. All right, win some, you lose some. That's the way it goes. But I think when it comes to bombing out of meets, we really need to make sure we come away with a positive attitude towards that. I mean, you can be pissed off about it, and you can use that in your training. But if you're doing dumbass shit like training in the warm-up room before they clean it up, that's probably not a good thing after you just did all the lifts and you're toast and exhausted. And I don't recommend that. So what I did early on is I started thinking about it. Okay, this could just be part of the process, but in order to make this a positive part of the process, did I learn something? And will I not redo that same mistake? So it got to be like, hey, if I bombed out of a meet, it's like, why did I bomb out of that meet? Do I fully understand why? Like, don't just go, the judges just red lighted it. Like, find out why they red lighted it. Find out what happened so that you know. And okay, this is then, like, I would have to take this process of, okay, I bombed out of the meet. I have to learn something from this. And that process was taking the time to talk to my training partners, my handlers. I would talk to the judges, find out what happened, what went wrong. Okay, let's give me some sort of rough resolution right now to fix this problem so it doesn't happen again. And then take that into my next training cycle for my next competition so that it doesn't happen again. I mean, lifting in a gym is one thing. Competing on a platform is almost like an art form to me. Like there's coming in fully recovered. There's knowing how to eat during that meet. There's knowing how to warm up. There's knowing to warm up properly, but not waste any energy or be too tired by the time you get to your lift. There's how do you train coming into that meet. Then there's like the adrenaline of a meet, keeping it under control to make sure your technique is right. There's being under the scrutiny of judges and still doing what you need to do. Like, there's a lot of different things that go into being a good competitor. You can be a great lifter in the gym and be horrible at meets. And people more like me, I'm better in a meet than I am in a gym. Like, I love meets. I love competing on that stage. I love that pressure. I love that excitement. I always do better in competition than I do in a gym. Hell, I do better on the platform than I do in the warm-up room. I've had some warm-ups in the back where everybody's like, oh shit, what are you going to do? Those looked horrible. And I go, don't worry about it. As soon as I get on the platform, it'll be fine. So there's an art to that. And part of the art to that is if something goes wrong, if you do bomb, how are you going to take that in a positive step? And, I think sometimes you might bomb. I had a meet where I think it was my first Arnold. That was really the first time I ever hurt myself, and I strained my back on my first squat. And I tried to finish it because I didn't know what happened. I just know I had this huge pain in my back. And I missed the lift, and I'm like, Ethan, hey, something's wrong with my back. I don't know what. And he's like, what are you going to do? I go, I'm going to try to get into meet, man. And I ended up missing my next two squats and bombed out. But it was like, okay, really? Was that, what did I do? We looked at my technique over and over, and it just happened. There wasn't any major thing that went, oh, you completely did this and it caused that. So it wasn't really like there was anything we could take away from it, but I had to go, listen, this is just one of those things that happened this time. So don't let it affect anything else. You came into the meet good, you felt good. It just happened. And some people could take that and take it into a very negative place. And you don't have to. Sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes shit just happens. It's part of the game. You have to, if you're going to be in this game, you have to accept that there's going to be some injuries and some things that are out of your control. And you need to control what you can control and accept what you can't. But overall, there are competitors that don't bomb or rarely bomb. A lot of the people are kind of like me, where we've bombed out of meets because I mean, especially, even if you do really good at first, because like at first I would always open with stupid light openers and always get in the meat. But as I got better and better, I'm like, no, that's a wasted attempt. Like, I need my first attempt to be something that I know I can do, but I also know I can't mess around. Because I would get goofy and play around. Where I remember one time I did like an 800-pound squat, and I actually stopped in the middle to start talking before standing up all the way. Because it was like, it was light and it was easy, and I knew I was going to get it, and so I played around, and that was dumb. It was just a waste of energy. The audience seemed to like it, though. So I didn't want to do that, and the better and better I got, the more I'm like, no, I'm not accepting anything less than this number. So here's where I'm going in. And you start pushing the limit, which is kind of what I'll talk to. The window for error gets smaller in a little bit. So don't freak out if you bomb out of a meet. It's okay. It happens. Like, the thing is, don't keep bombing out of meets, because it's a lot of money and time and effort. So just make sure that you're learning with each meet. And if you bomb out of it, you need to learn. If you have a great meet, there's something to learn from that. If you bomb out of a meet, you definitely have to learn. Like, make it like, okay, I bombed out. This sucks. It's horrible, miserable. I hate it. I can't wait to get back to training. But I'm not going to let this drive how I'm going to train. I'm going to train intelligently, but I'm going to use this energy every time I'm in the gym to make sure those training sessions that I'm supposed to do are intense. And I'm going to get done what I need to get done with intent, with focus. I'm just not going to go in there raged out, pissed off every time. I'm going to go in there intelligent. And then what I did wrong, we're going to work on all the time. Say, for example, I believe I did this in one of my first meets, or maybe in a couple of my first meets, where I would stand up with a squat so easy and just rack it. And it's like, or with the bench press. And I'm like, damn it, I beat the command. I don't think I've ever bombed because of that, but I've missed lifts because of that, and either had to retake them or had, it's like, okay, now I'm jumping and, you're trying to decide that whole thing just because I simply missed a command. So when we went back in the gym, I'm like, that's it. From now on, don't ever, ever let me put something back into rack immediately. I don't care if it's a warm-up. I don't care if it's my speed work. I have to hold and lock out everything, then re-rack it. And after that, I didn't even have to listen to commands at the meet. I would just go and do what I always did, and it always passed. So that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing you need to take away from bombing. Don't let. Trying to think of the best way to say this, and it just popped into my head that don't beat yourself up over it. Okay, you made a mistake. That's fine. You got to forgive yourself. It may take you a little while, but you got to get there to forgive yourself, and then you got to learn and improve from it. I know a lot of times people just get pissed off at themselves, and I've seen people have bombed out of meets and stopped powerlifting. And I'm like, damn, that sucks, man. Like, it's just one meet. Like, there's going to be lots of meets. Like, bombing out of a meet isn't the end of the world. It sucks, yes, and it's no fun, but it's not the end of the world. You could come back to your next meet and just destroy what you did the meet previously. And that one thing that you learned from bombing out of that meet could be the thing that triggers you to make major gains. So it's all about turning what seems like a negative into a positive. That sometimes the one negative thing, that one or two steps backward, can be what launches you forward. So bombing out of meets, it's not the end of the world. And if you can, I recommend, if it's like a smaller meet or a local meet and you bomb out of, say, the squat or the bench, I always ask them, hey, can I go ahead and finish out the meet? Because a lot of times, especially if it's a small meet, it helps to have those lifters to keep the timing better. If you have a bunch of people bomb out and you get to the deadlift and there's 3 lifters left, they're just getting rushed through. And I'm sure they would appreciate having another person in there anyway to spread that time out a little bit. And it's more experience. You're just, at that point, you're like, all right, I bombed out. But hey, you know what? I can get a good deadlift in. I can see where my deadlift's at. I can test it. And so take advantage of that. And so then it comes down to breaking down like I said, you want to figure out what happened. A lot of times people think they missed a lift because of strength, when a lot of times it's not strength, it's technique is why they missed the lift. So I would say if I was going to do a standard, what do you think happened? Why did you mess up? My first thing would be, did you overtrain for the meet, or were you fully recovered? I hear a lot of guys are like, man, I just did that last week. I just squatted that 5 days ago. I'm like, and you're here at the meet 5 days later? Like, you no wonder you missed it. You're probably still sore and beat up and tired from that one. So I think the first question I would want people to ask is, how did I come into this meet? Did I feel good? Was I ready to go? Was I 100% recovered? I think a lot of times people coming into meets, they're trying to gain every little bit of strength they can. Well, you're really not going to gain much strength over the last 2-3 weeks. But what you can do is you can come in not 100%, which is going to kill your maximal strength. So the biggest thing I really think about when coming into a meet is, am I fully 100% recovered? To me, that's one of the absolute biggest things. You shouldn't need to hit your openers a week before. You should be hitting your openers 2, 3, I will go 5 weeks, 6 weeks out, I hit my openers. Because during that period, I'm still going to gain some strength, but not much. But my biggest thing is, like, can I come into the meet 100% recovered? And I always take at least 7 days off before the competition. Now, during those times, I want to be stretching, I want to be visualizing, I want to be walking, I want to be moving, but I'm not lifting anything except in my head with my visualizing. Then after that, it would be like, okay, how did your warm-up go? Did you warm up properly? Were did you get excited and do way too many warm-ups? Were you trying to, like, normally you warm up a little slower and more methodical, and this day you were just jumping under weights and just trying to do everything as fast as you can, but that's not what you normally do. Did you take your warm-ups normal, and when you stepped on the platform, did you feel warm and energetic, or did you feel warm and burned out? Did you feel like you hadn't warmed up enough? Was the first one like just felt weird? It wasn't enough, so you needed a little more warm up. And then I would start looking at the technique. How is your technique? A lot of, especially newer lifters, even when they're working on their technique in the gym, they get in that platform excited mode and they throw their technique out the window. So they didn't miss a lift because of strength. Maybe they came in great. Maybe they warmed up well. But they just missed the lift, like physically didn't get it. But maybe that's because their technique went to complete shit. And if that's the case, then it's like, okay, I missed this lift because of me, because I let my technique go to shit. How am I going to fix this? Like one of the easiest and first things is start when you're in the gym and you're doing heavy stuff that day, visualize being at the competition. Tell yourself, if you're doing max effort or whatever, it's like, okay, my warm-up's done. I get 3 lifts today and here's what I want to hit. And visualize, test, put yourself in that situation. Make it so real that you feel that little bit of stress from a competition, and that's going to help you kind of get used to that. The other thing is, okay, did you do good with squats and you did good with bench, but by the time you got to the deadlift, you were exhausted. And then you didn't drop your opener. Okay, well, there's multiple lessons there. First of all, make sure you test your opener a little better in the warm-up area and see where you're at, and just be smart. By that point, you want to get one in. You want to get a number in the meet, man, for your total, and then you can make little bigger jumps. How was your nutrition during the meet? A lot of people, especially newer lifters, struggle with nutrition during the meet, and simply most of them just don't eat enough. Like it's like a long, you're training basically 3 times that day. You get all pumped up, you do your squats, then you calm back down. Then you go do your benches, then you calm back down. You're basically doing 3 workouts that day. So you got to get in tons of calories and tons of nutrition to get you through that day and keep your energy levels up. And that's pretty much, I'm trying to run through my head here because I didn't put a whole lot of, I didn't write down a whole lot of notes for this one. I thought, hey, it's first back. Let's just go for it. Sometimes you got to jump in and just start and just start back sometimes. So I think that pretty much covers a lot of the bombing out. I mean, really the biggest thing that I want people to understand is don't let the negativity of bombing out like get to you. Yeah, it sucks. Even my guys now, if they bomb out, they're like, oh, I let you down. And it's not the case. And when we had our team, guys that feel like they let the whole team down, we're like, hey, we've all bombed. Like it's not that big a deal. I get it. All I care about is that we learn from that experience. It's not even a negative experience. It's not a negative or a positive. It's just an experience. Can we learn from it and make ourselves better? And it is an art form, and you're never going to learn how to do a competition without going to competitions. I mean, go in there, and if you're there and you happen to have a top lifter there, just watch him. Watch what he's eating during the day. Watch how he's going around and doing it. And I'm not saying copy. Everybody's eventually going to have to find their own way. But you can watch what these people do and go, hey, I like that. I like that. Look, he's doing this. I've never tried that. Let me try that. So I'm not saying match exactly what they do, but watch what they do to learn from it, to get more ideas, to look at how you did and see, oh, you know what? I got to the deadlift and I was pretty wiped out. So, but I ate good and I picked a good weight. Like it should have been easy, you know. I think I was just exhausted. So maybe I need to get in better shape to get through a full meet. And that can be as easy as winning warm-ups. I'm a big fan of winning warm-ups. I've had guys that had trouble getting through full meets. We start doing winning warm-ups. So we do 4 or 5 months of winning warm-ups. Their next meet, they're like, holy shit. I just PR'd and everything. I got to the deadlift and I still felt great. Like that kept him in much better shape. So now let's move on to the window for error. When you're a newer lifter, you don't really have any skill. So you're going to strain under weight, but you don't really have, the window's wide open. Like, man, you can squat 300 pounds. It don't matter if you do it right or wrong or sideways or whatever, because it's only 300 pounds. So if you shoot your ass up and you do a good morning with it, it's only 300 pounds. Like, you'll be fine. You'll get it. As you improve and get better, your proprioception gets better. You recruit more muscle fibers and deeper muscle fibers. Your movement patterns get better. You get stronger, so you're lifting more weight. Your technique should improve as well. So now, at say a 300-pound squat, you could get all over the place and still come up with it. Now you're squatting 600 pounds. Well, if you get in a good morning position, if you shoot your ass up and get into good morning position, it's not 300, it's 600. And even though you got stronger, you know, a 600 good morning's shit ton of weight. You're probably not going to get it. So that's kind of what I'm talking about with the window for error getting smaller. And you get guys, I remember talking to Andy Bolton one time, and Andy Bolton's still to me like the greatest deadlifter ever. The guy, it was just impressive, and how the time that he did, I know a couple guys have beat his record, but I still see him as the greatest deadlifter ever. And he knew, like there's times where he went for a big deadlift and he would just, nope, like I misgrooved it. I'm not going to get my number one heaviest 100% lift if I'm out of the groove. So there's no point in me even trying. And he knew that because he was such a technician, and he's so strong, such a technician. He knew that it would be a waste. He would rather just wait and on the next attempt groove it right and get it a lot easier. Because 1,000-pound deadlift, a little bit in front of you is a whole lot more than taking a 300-pound deadlift and getting it a little bit in front of you. So the better you get, the more you're able to get out of your body, the closer to perfect it has to be. So when I was new, and say I could squat 600 pounds, I could squat 600 pounds pretty much whenever I wanted. It didn't even matter. At my best, when I was squatting, say, 11 and 1,200, I would have days where 800 felt like a house. Like my body would fluctuate so much depending on my central nervous system, depending on my sleep, depending on my nutrition, depending on if I grooved it right, and if you're not getting your sleep, if your central nervous system's stressed and overdone, you can't recruit the muscle fiber. Your technique starts to get shitty. You're not as spot on and tight as when you feel good. Well, all that stuff matters tremendously. So the better you get, the better you have to be. And it's kind of like, I'm trying to think of an analogy with another sport. Even like a baseball player who's throwing 99 miles an hour, that's why they don't have him do it every single day, because he can't perform that every single day. He still has to rest. He's asking more from his body, so he needs to give more. It's kind of like what got you from a 300-pound to a 400-pound bench, and 400-pound to 500-pound, and 500-pound to 600-pound. Like each one of those steps gets harder and harder and harder. And you got to start getting more and more and more. Like your nutrition, when you're first starting, like, dude, just get enough nutrition. Just get a bunch of protein. You'll be fine. But the better and better you get, the more and more important each little thing is. And I think a lot of people get stuck in, well, this worked before. Yeah, well, it's not going to work now. Like you got to tighten up. You got to tighten everything up. You got to tighten your nutrition up. You got to tighten your sleep up. You got to get that technique perfect, because 400 pounds, if you're looking at a deadlift and if that bar's in front of you, like every inch that bar's in front of you adds weight. Well, if it's 300 pounds, it's adding a little bit of weight. 500 pounds, it I can't think of the term, but it increases incrementally with every weight you go up. So 800 pounds an inch ahead of you is like adding 150 pounds. Where 300 pounds an inch ahead of you is like adding like 20 pounds. So the better and better you get, the more and more things are going to matter. And this goes back to when you go to the meet, the more and more that stuff's going to matter. Like if you're trying to do your absolute 100% best and you're a high level athlete, that means your 100% best is with proper nutrition, great sleep. It's with proper technique. I mean, you look at guys like Ed Coan, that guy it's exactly the same every time. And it's that way in all sports. You look at baseball players, tennis players, they all do these same little weird incremental things coming up to perform. And then their motion's always the same. Well, you get that out, you sit back a little bit too far, you sit forward a little bit too far, you're done. So that window for error becomes smaller. So as you're coming up and as you're doing more meets, you got to kind of plan for that and understand that. And you can't break yourself down just because you bombed out of a meet. Yeah. I mean, I think being hard on yourself is definitely a part of being one of the best in the world. But there's also a point where if you can't forgive yourself and move on from it, it's actually going to hold you back more than it's going to push you forward. And that's both of these subjects are not like these hugely profound things or hugely profound thoughts. They're kind of standard, but it is interesting how many people don't give them, how many lifters don't give them the time and thought that they do deserve. You know, because you can there's a point where you can muscle weight, and there's a point where it's not going to happen. And this was actually funny when I went into Highland Games, because my first big Highland Games that had pro level throwers there, and I didn't throw with the pros. I threw with A's, which is like the highest amateur throwers. But I got to watch the pros, and I was excited. I was excited because I have a background in shot put and for a couple years in college. I was excited to go watch the pro Highland Game throwers. And so like I went up and introduced myself, and you know, it was cool. It was great getting to meet them, but it turns out some of them knew who I was. So we got to talking, and they're like, "Man, if we could teach you how to throw, like it'd be awesome to see what you could do." And I'm like, "Yeah, if I could help you with your strength, man, we get your bench and your deadlift up, I would love to see what it does to your throwing." But what was interesting is you get up and you have guys that can't lift what I can lift. But they killed me. They just destroyed me in the throws. Because there's that much difference in technique. So even if you're a thrower and you focus too much on strength and you don't focus on technique, you're not going to get there. You have to focus on the technique. And even in powerlifting, you again have to focus on the technique. Like you need to know what you're doing. And so like I get up, the 56 pound weight was my nemesis for some reason. Because first of all, you get 56 pounds in my hands and I start spinning. My first gut reaction is to muscle up. And like, I got to manhandle this weight because it's trying to manhandle me. And you know what? It would actually manhandle me. Because I would just try to muscle it and go faster and faster. And quickly, 56 pounds when you're spinning, it quickly adds up to a whole lot more weight. And as soon as you let it in control, you're out of position, you don't have a power position, and you suck. And that's where I was with the 56. The 28 pounder I could still kind of manhandle, and that thing didn't trigger in my head. I would slow down a little bit with it. But it's the same thing. If you try to manhandle these massive weights in powerlifting, it's not going to work. Like, and you look at guys like Andy Bolton, who's so strong, but he didn't manhandle the deadlift. He knew being in the right position and then utilizing his strength was what was going to get him to be the first man to pull 1,000 pounds. And then I don't even know how many times he pulled it after that. Seems like it was 20 or 30 damn times he's pulled that. And so that's just something to think about as you're moving along and you're kind of a novice or a newer lifter. You can't fix all this stuff. You can't learn all this stuff right away. But if it can be in your head, if you're getting told by better lifters, or I should say reminded by better lifters of these things, to just keep thinking about them and let them sit in and let them percolate. And as time comes, you're going to start noticing these things. You're going to go, oh, now I'm starting to get it. Okay, I'm starting to understand. Yeah, now that I'm squatting 800 pounds, there's times where I get out of position and it feels like it's crazy heavy. But when I do it right, it feels easy. And that's where you're starting to get into this, and you're starting to learn the importance of the technique, and you're starting to understand that there is a window for error. So you got to tighten up. Like you can be a pretty good lifter with shitty technique. You know, if you have good genetics and stuff, you can do well. But if you want to be really good, you're going to have to tighten that technique up. You can get pretty far just pounding food. At some point, you kind of need to start looking at, well, wait a minute, you know, my recovery is important. I want to train more. I need to eat a little better. I need to make sure I get my sleep. Sure, you can go party and, you know, every weekend, and you can do all that stuff, and you can be, you know, think you're a badass going to the gym after being up all night partying, but that stuff is all that the better and better you get, the stronger you get, the higher level of competition you get, those little errors start adding up, man. And for you to progress, that window just keeps closing. You can only make this many errors when you're a high-level power lifter. When you were a beginner, you could make all these errors and still keep making gains. So that's something I think I want beginners to kind of start understanding, and the guys that are kind of mid-level already, I hope that they can grasp on to, like, that's some of the stuff that needs to happen in order to bump to that next level. Like, you got to start you got to take it a little more serious and get past the just grunting through it. I mean, you still got to grunt through it because you're still going to train your ass off, but you got to dig deeper, and you got to hit that intent and really know why you're doing what you're doing and how you're doing it and how you're going to plan it out. So that's a little bit on those two subjects right there. I'm going to go ahead and end this. This will be one of my podcasts back anyway. The goal, of course, is to kind of set up a nice place, get a nice background and stuff when we get in the new building. I'd really love to have, like, cool guests come down, maybe do some training videos and do the podcast. That's what we're working towards. And of course, maybe get some better equipment and stuff, and just see what we can keep doing and keep growing. No different than when I started powerlifting. I wasn't doing nothing, you know. I came into my first meet was like 1,700 pounds. Nobody knew who I was. Years of training, years of studying and learning, and that's how I'm approaching the same thing. And this was a big jump with this move, and so far so good. Like the guy that fell out of the 5-story building, and at every story everybody heard him say, "So far so good." That's where we're at right now. Yeah. Thanks for joining me. If you guys got ideas, my Instagram's just Chad Ikes. Let me know, and I'll see what I can do. But for now, I'm out.
Thanks for listening to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast. For more information, please visit CourageBarbell.com. Until next time.